Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the weekly video again. As usual, we're going to start off with the US indices. Then we're going to look at the Singapore Straits Times, followed by the Singapore market. So we're going to zoom in into various sectors of the Singapore market. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at the Dow. So last Friday, we can see that the Dow moved up to test its resistance at 34413, around there, thereabout. And unfortunately, it didn't manage to break up from its resistance as there are some selling pressure to push the Dow to close lower. So as of now, I can see that the index are actually green and is moving back towards its resistance. So once this is true, when the market really opens and the index is able to test back its resistance and break up from it, then we have potential more upward movement with the gap over here at around 34580 to 34709 to fill up. So once it's filled up, it clears the path for the index to move higher to test its resistance at this level around 35074. So as all the resistance breaks, then it proves that the market is bullish and the Dow is free to create another all-time high and resume its uptrend. So let's hope that tonight we can see a clean breakout. So a closing at above 3500 is much welcome. That will give us a significant sign to tell us that the gap can be filled up within days, and then the resistance can be tested sooner than we expected. Let's move to S&P 500. S&P 500, like the Dow, tested the resistance at 4183, but as compared to the Dow, it did not fare too well as it closed as a black candle. So there's a sign of higher opening and lower closing. That is one of the bad sign, or rather that is one of the sign of weakness in this upwards movement. Coupled with the long upper shadow tells you more uncertainty. So the S&P 500 on Friday has been unclear and uncertain about whether it should be moving up higher. So usually these signs are not very good for the upward movement unless the S&P 500 can move back up to 4193 tonight and close above 4188. So that will negate the uncertainty and erase off the selling pressure, the fear of selling pressure. And once you've done that, it also clears the path for it to move up to its upper resistance at 4237. So with that, it is very important tonight, a pivotal candle that this S&P 500 has to close higher, such that it can suggest that it would resume back its upward movement and can test back its upper resistance. Nasdaq, right, as you can see over here, Nasdaq had a very strong opening, but right after it opened, it sold all the way down and ended negative. And this is in fact not a very good sign once again, because you can see that it is a higher opening but a lower closing. So this kind of candles is usually a sign to tell you that traders are willing to sell off, right? Once they see some profit, and then even push it even lower, reluctant to continue its upwards movement. So in order to erase such a sign of selling, right, we need it to be a white candle over here where the buying pressure erases the selling pressure. Then from there, it has a chance to move up to the next resistance at 13806. So 13806 to continue or to resume back its upward trend. Now, it is not going to be very straightforward movement where we may start to see ups and downs. So higher opening, lower closing is not what we want. So we really need to have a white candle to erase it. So case in point is that I would like to show an example. So this is a sign of higher opening and lower closing, and the Nasdaq had to pull back first before it can resume back its upward movement. Now you can see the higher opening, lower closing, but the next day you can see there's a white candle over here. Right, that is a sign of erasing the selling pressure, and eventually the Nasdaq is able to move up further. But of course, it didn't move up too high, then it pulled back before it actually go up higher. Okay, but you get the point. So this is a very important candle to watch over here tonight. So watch out tonight. STI. As you can see, STI most of the time for the past 4 days had a higher opening, but eventually ends lower. Okay, so again, this is a sign of selling as well, selling pressure. So this is the same thing, higher opening, lower closing. So we would not like to see this kind of candle as much as possible. So the glimmer of hope for STI is that you notice that every candle low is edging higher. So that gives some clue that actually the selling pressure is there, but at the same time, they are not willing to sell lower. So as such, they are waiting for the next clear signal to move up. So what we are looking at going forward is that if they have decided to move up, then we want to see a solid white candle at 3145. Then once it breaks up from it, then we can see STI continue to move higher towards the next resistance. Of course, before that, it needs to fill up the gap at 3167 and 3178. Now, just to give you an example why this is positive, it's very similar to here, where you can see, no doubt you have black candles, black candles, black candles, but the lows are getting higher. And this gives a clue that, you know, STI may move higher, and eventually STI did move higher. So it is where you see a breakout, then STI managed to move higher. So similarly, we need a breakout over here as well. Okay, now let's move on to individual stocks. Then we are going to look at some of the interesting stocks. So you may have caught a glimpse of the counter that I want to share with you. But first, we talk about the banking sectors first. So what do we have here? We have DBS testing resistance at $30, but failed to break through. So it opened up at $30, but failed to break through it, and then it got slammed down to a negative region. So what we may see in the banks is that if there's no breakout, immediate breakout coming or happened, right, it may pull back to a certain low, maybe around here at this region, 29, 26, before it attempt to break out again. So if what I have said in the index is true, then when the index move higher, of course, DBS is likely to move higher as well because it's one of the heavy weightage. So similar to Dow, it may erase off the selling, or similar to S&P 500. So it may erase off this selling pressure by moving to test $30 resistance again the next day. And once it breaks out from this resistance, because it is moving into an unknown region where it is going to be another all-time high. Okay, so we've got to watch where DBS is going to hit to, right? So the reason is very important. OCBC has a different chart where it has just moved off to form a higher low. So to complete that higher low, OCBC has to come to this resistance level at around $12.19 and break out from there. So in order to move up to test its resistance at 1261. Okay, so it's a slightly different fortune. So if the market has decided that it should move uptrend going forward, then we can see DBS break out from its resistance, followed by OCBC also will move out and break out from its 1219 resistance. Then we have UOB tested resistance at 2580, but it did not manage to break out from this resistance. So what happened next is that, well, three of the banks move in the same direction. Then we can see that resistance break, OCBC move to resistance, UOB break out from 2580 and towards the next resistance at around 2683. So just watch, see whether we can have a consensus where the market move up with the banks leading the market. Now let's move to the tech. AEM last week when we talked about AEM, we actually found the hammer and we needed a white candle confirmation. So the white candle confirmation came in and AEM starts to move up. So what we see here is that we observe that there is a low and there is a slight higher low over here. So the next step after higher low is to break out from its resistance and form the next higher high. So today we do see that AEM attempt to break out but did not manage to break out successfully. But nevertheless, the overall chart formation is still looking more positive than negative, or more bullish than bearish. What we may see is that if a breakout happens successfully in the next few days, then we would like to see AEM move back to its resistance level above 359. Okay, that is one minor resistance that we need to watch out for. Then free up this gap over here from 382 to 398, then to be completely bullish. Okay, so overall still looking positive, and in fact there is still chance to catch AEM especially when it breaks out before it hit back 382 or 398. UMS today form a potential signal for potential reversal with an inverted hammer, and if it can have a white candle confirmation tomorrow, then we may see it continue to move up towards its resistance level over here, which is 143. So watch out for a white candle confirmation. Now, if this doesn't come in and UMS move into this direction, then of course you have to continue to wait, because UMS may move down to test back its support at 126. So very positive sign for UMS, because first we have already broken out the high over here. Next is that if you look at this black candle, it is actually a gap down and a lower closing. And look at the volume, the selling pressure is extremely high. Okay, but UMS did not break lower as yet. Okay, so this tells us that there's this thing called vertical absorption. So there could be some absorbing of the shares. Okay, but to prove that it is absorbing the shares, we have to see a confirmation for this inverted hammer, and of course retesting of this resistance. Now, the most lethal inverted hammer that I've seen is actually in Frencken. Right? If you remember in the video itself, I actually highlighted that, hey, Frencken, watch out for the potential reversal, and the white candle is very much needed. And indeed, the counterform that white candle, which I did revise or did update last week, and we do see upward movement, and that is the only time where you can look back to get Frencken, because after that there's no chance for us, because Frencken has moved up significantly to break all-time high, and the counter has moved up by a whooping, from the inverted hammer, 23%. Okay, so our next best chance is to wait for the counter to finish its buying, stabilize, look for more acute signs of accumulations, and then this is where we participate in its bullish run again. So for those who have Frencken earlier, I extend my congratulations to you. Okay. And Nanofilm, after it has broken up from this resistance at 4.93, it has managed to continue to go higher, but this upward movement doesn't come easy. As we can see, there are signs of uncertainty, with long upper shadows on these two candles, and higher opening and lower closing on this candle. So these are the signs of uncertainties over here. So this may suggest that eventually the stocks has to have a pullback, because the strength could be a warning, and this is where we want to have this kind of pullback, slight pullback, then this kind of rebound. So if Nanofilm really did pull back and eventually rebound, right, it could be aiming for its gap over here. And once it fills up this gap, then the resistance that we would like it to clear is 538, and eventually move back up to 550. Okay, the counter is still looking good, so the next pullback is very important. So you'll notice that every pullback itself is low, like this, or I would say that it's gentle like this, then the stocks has a good chance to continue to move higher. So watch out for the next opportunity to enter into Nanofilm. ISDN has broken up from this resistance over here and has closed at a decent level. So the next thing to look out for is that this counter will clear is 6.5 resistance and gradually move towards 68. So from there, then we have a slight pullback, rebound, then we move back to 715 resistance and break out from this major resistance. And of course, the path to go up is not easy, because after 715, there's a series of resistance to look out for. First, we have 735, then we have 765. So there's a long way to go for ISDN, but to start the journey, right, first we must break out from 6.5. Okay. Now, if we can't break out from 6.5, it will be good that this counter maybe have a slight pullback to 6.2 rebound, from a sign over here, rebound. Then this is where everybody can get into the bandwagon, and then move back to 6.5. Then we have a breakout from there, then move into this region at 6.8, then continue move higher. So let's look out for more signs to this counter. Let's move on to the property. We have city development. I highlighted before that we have a bullish Harami plus hammer. Right, this was highlighted in my emails to my clients every day, and we have a white candle confirmation the next day. But unfortunately, the follow-through buying didn't come. Right, so there was a selling, but the selling is, like I say, on STI, very similar to STI. You notice that the candle lows are not getting lower, but instead they are gradually going higher. So very similar to STI. So these index stocks do actually have some impact to the index. So what we are looking at next is that the counter to go back to test resistance at this level, 757, break up from there, then we can see an infancy of uptrend. Then resistance by resistance, we clear where we want to see CityDev clear 778, then followed by 794. Capitaland gradually moving back up to uptrend where we can see higher low. Okay, the deal is still on, and I still believe that this counter should move up because of the deal. So we can see that resistance at 363. Then of course, the next will be 365, followed by 367. So you can see that there's a tight range of resistance for the counter to break. So from 363 to 367. But overall, the counter still look positive. So we have higher low now. Okay, so this lower low and higher low now. So once we break out from higher high, then the stocks is really ready to move back into uptrend. UOL managed to rebound from its major support at 708, and then now it is consolidating over here, waiting for a breakout to happen. So the candles for the past 4 days doesn't show much bullishness, but then the good thing is it doesn't break low as yet. So the low that I'm saying is here. So it doesn't break 723 low as yet. So what we want to watch is that if it doesn't break 723 low, then if it breaks 743 high, so it's ready to move up. So if it move up to 766, then we can have a clearer direction, and this is where the direction is likely to be uptrend. Okay, so let's talk about individual stocks. So we have Comfortdelgro over here, also consolidating, very similar to UOL chart, but then it looks much better because we see white candles over here, and we are looking at this resistance to clear, this zonal resistance where Comfortdelgro has to clear this 167 to 170. This is a very important resistance for this counter. Now, if I were to switch to the weekly chart, this counter is actually just rebounding off from its major support at 155. So there's still a good ground to cover, and 1.82 is its immediate major resistance to look out for. So the weekly chart looking positive. So hopefully the daily would move towards that direction. So first you must break out from 170. Sembcorp industry is looking good as it attempt to rebound. So we see signs of a higher low over here. And once it moves back up to 1207, then we can start to see more upward movement. So today we have a very nice white candle, a good closing, and the next step is to gradually move towards 207, and we could potentially see more upside towards 219. Monte Pac, 2 videos ago, I mentioned this counter was in the uptrend, and it is still so, despite the selling pressure over here. So the good thing about this selling is that the intraday selling did not push this counter lower. In fact, the stocks had a very strong fight back and helped this counter to close off its low. No doubt it's still negative, but it has created a long lower shadow, confirming the support level. And today we see a solid white candle breaking out from the resistance. So many moons ago, or in fact it was 10th of May, I highlighted this, that I will expect this counter to break 36 cents, and the target will be around 50 cents. So let's look at the email targets again. So over here we are looking at, sorry, the target is 39.5 cents. So if we were to move up this 36 cents above this 36 cents, we are looking at 395 resistance. So going forward, look out for this counter, right? If it were to form a flat pattern, that will give you a second chance for you to get into this counter. So having set the flat pattern, many may have caught the buzz of this upward movement of Sheng Siong, okay, including my wife, right? She came home telling me that, hey, do you watch Sheng Siong? It has a very strong rally. So it had a very strong rally. So yeah, I said yes. So why is that so? Because of the restriction that the government has put in place, right? Many will anticipate the recovery or the continuation of Sheng Siong's good result. So what we are seeing here is that after that strong rally, Sheng Siong did not follow through. Instead, it is consolidating right now, forming a pennant pattern or flat pattern. So you can see the volume declining. So what we are looking at is that this counter has to break out into this region and close no long upper shadow, a solid white candle, then it may suggest that it can continue to move higher. So the projection level will be around here. So we just take the candle body and just place it at the breakout point. So the new projection level will be around 1.79. So what we are looking and waiting for is the next breakout point. So can Sheng Siong really break out? Because after the day after the day where the restriction was announced, the supermarket was actually quite crowded, but only for that day. After that, the supermarket went back to normal, where people shop normally. So we shall see whether the market still see a much better result for Sheng Siong going forward. And then, of course, not to forget some of the other tech counters. Just to add on, Innotek is one of the strong tech counters where it has moved up. So today we can see there's uncertainty in its hours movement, but no fear yet, because the weekly chart, right, hasn't formed up yet. So the weekly chart still look okay. So towards the end of the week, if it can close at 9.8, then we have this resistance target at 1.02. Okay, so with this, thank you for viewing my video. So I will be coming back next week to go through the stocks again. So in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can leave comments in the YouTube channel, or you can contact me separately. You can WhatsApp me separately for those who know me. Okay, so thank you again. I will see you next week.